Welcome to Hair Loss Solutions TV, where we explore real stories, expert insights, and proven solutions to help you look and feel your best. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 women experience hair thinning and hair loss? It's more common than you think, and it affects more than just appearance. It can impact self-esteem, confidence, and overall wellness. In this episode, we're focusing on women's hair loss, what causes it, how it affects women, and what options are available to restore not just their hair, but their hope. You'll hear from 3 inspiring women. Sheila, whose hair loss stemmed from a thyroid condition. Danielle, whose journey began after a salon mishap. And Kelly, whose experience of hair thinning and found that there was no clear medical explanation. Plus, we'll be joined by Carlos Piña to talk to us about laser light therapy, a non-invasive solution designed to stimulate hair growth and support healthier hair from the inside out. Let's get started. Hair loss in women can be triggered by a range of factors: hormonal shifts, health conditions, and even styling practices. In this segment, we take a closer look at some of these most common causes behind hair thinning. What are some of the causes of hair loss? In my book, Women's Hair Solutions to Thinning and Loss, goes through the entire detail of every type of hair loss and makeovers that represent women that have gone through the experience of dealing with the emotional side of hair loss and then finding the solution that helped them look beautiful inside and out. But today I just want to kind of discuss with you what I discuss with my patients when they come into my private practice. We spend an hour consultation with each person, whatever their needs are, whatever their cause of hair loss is, and we go through a history and we go through a series of tests and evaluations and assessment. And at the end of this program, I'm going to provide you with the professional assessment that I use for you to do at home yourself to help you even be more aware and educated of the solutions that may be available. But let's talk about hair loss. There is the natural hair loss, the genetic predisposition hair loss, where someone is born with a gene. It may never appear, that hair loss may never appear, or it may appear late in life, or as it has now over the last decade, appears much earlier, such as the 20s, 30s, and 40s, because of different triggers that we're going to talk about. Male pattern is much different than female pattern. Male pattern starts in the areas of the temples, the crown, and a male will generally go bald on the top of the head above the parietal bone, it's the bone of the skull, and not go bald or lose his hair on the sides or back. That's why male pattern is a good candidate for surgical hair replacement through transplant. But female pattern hair loss is a much different pattern. The pattern is a pattern that falls just behind the hairline, and it begins to just thin out, and the hairs begin to miniaturize, and it's like a pebble in the brook. It can get bigger and bigger and bigger, and it can extend the entire head of hair, where she may not be bald, but she has gotten thinner and thinner and thinner, and as time goes on, more and more of that scalp is being seen. But now there's alopecia, and alopecia is a Latin word for hair loss. Hair loss in spots, alopecia areata, where all of a sudden a spot appears, maybe a stressful time, whatever it might be, a spot here, a spot there. It could be permanent, it could grow back. The process of alopecia is that the white blood cells perceive that the healthy hair follicle is a disease and it attacks it. Then there's alopecia totalis, where the entire head hair is lost, eyebrows, and maybe the eyelashes as well. And then there's alopecia universalis, the entire body, the hair is lost. Trichotillomania And trichotillomania is where someone begins to pull their hair or twist their hair. And it can be on the head in a pattern or in a place, a whole head, just an eyebrow. It can be any place. This is a compulsive disorder, but that was always what was thrown up, that it was a compulsive disorder. They would try to treat it with drugs or, counseling, but the success was not quite where they wanted it to be. Now, with greater research and development, with some of the better psychologists that you'll see that I interview on Hair Loss Solutions TV, they have taken this apart and found that there's different types of compulsive disorders, and they are addressing each one differently and personally, and it goes from children all the way to adults. Now, there's also the reality of your health condition. The thyroid is always one of the questions I ask. How is your thyroid? I ask, how's your iron? I ask, how's your B? And how's your D? Why? Because those affect the hair follicle. Those affect the nutrition to the hair. Speaking of nutrition, you Burger King and hamburgers and McDonald's and all those other fast foods that block not only the arteries of our hearts in our body, but it blocks the healthy blood supply getting to the hair. If there's been a reduction of good, healthy nutrition, there's also less to the hair. That's why we address that with trichology and good coaching in my book, Women's Hair Solutions to Thinning and Loss. I go through a whole chapter on nutrition, not complicated diets, not difficult or starvation, just good basic fundamentals like protein, like salmon, like peanuts, like things that can really help give the nutrition to the blood supply. So there's so many solutions now than ever before. So if you're experiencing hair loss, the earlier the better of detection, because if you do, there is much more in the trichology. What is trichology? The study of hair and scalp, and how to stimulate the greatest growing factor of the scalp to give the hair the greatest ability to sustain itself and to maintain itself as long as possible. There's also dandruff and there's oiliness. Wow, that's a scalp problem that can be either or, dandruff, dry scalp, or oily, or the combination of those two that block the follicle. So the hair that is already maybe weakened because of other triggers or other genetic predispositions or stress creates the inability for that hair to grow to its substantial fullness at that point. Last but not least, friction is an enemy. The friction of headbands, hats, hoods, collars, you get a friction going on. That friction is not dealt with, especially when the hair is weaker. Then you break hairs off and you cause hairs to get more and more damage at that point. Hair doesn't grow overnight. And when you see these commercials, somebody rubbing something on their scalp or rubbing something in the shower on their hair, and they all of a sudden have the after picture of a full head of hair, don't believe those things. They are not anything more than just fairy tales. Hair takes time to grow, 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, a month. And to get the results, you need professional analyzation, instrumentation of the right instruments to read your condition, to reread it just like a blood test, to find out if what the doctor's prescribed is getting better. And if you've lost it, then the sophistication of the 3D technology of hair replacement like it's never been before. Swim, shower, sleep, live 24/7 in a beautiful hair system. If you're interested in doing your own personal evaluation, step by step, I guide you all the way through, and I have videos attached to that document so that if you fall into the category that the matrix takes you, you can see what that kind of solution means, from cosmetic camouflage on the top of your scalp, from strand by strand attachment of hairs, to integration, to trichology and treatments, to even full head systems are all there, including the surgical procedures that are available today.
Hair Loss Solutions TV with Jeffrey Paul thanks our sponsor, Wigs for Kids, a non-profit changing lives by providing free wigs to children experiencing medical hair loss.
Again, friction is an enemy to your hair. And when does it happen? Well, we've talked in other videos about friction from a towel, the wrong kind of towel. But friction, when you go to bed, is probably the greatest period of time, 6, 7, 8 hours for those that get a good amount of rest. But the reality is that friction gets terrible. As you sleep, and I love the people who say, I don't move when I sleep, except all the studies prove that we do. But the reality is, as you sleep on that cotton pillowcase and you just sleep and you have a great evening sleeping and tossing and turning, oh my gosh, look what happens to that hair. And when this friction takes place, this friction damage, it doesn't get better. You can try to brush it out and rip at it, unless you're using the new wet brush. But the reality is it doesn't get better because it begins to split. Once the hair is split, it's very difficult to stop that friction damage. So what do? Not sleep. Or you can try sleeping standing up, and I don't advise that either. But all you need to do, a simple solution, is a satin pillowcase. Where you lay on that satin pillowcase, it's not only comfortable, it is very gentle, and there's no friction that can be caused on the hair at all. And in ours, at Jeffrey Paul Salon, we have a zipper on it so the pillow doesn't slip out of the actual pillowcase. It's actually zipped on, if I can find the zipper, and you just pull that pillowcase zipper up, and that stays with you as you sleep. But let me give you one more point. Before you go to bed, you see this? Before you go to bed, take your spray conditioner number 5, and just gently spritz all around your hair, and take your wet brush and gently comb through all the tangles. Give yourself like the olden days of grandmothers that used to comb 100 strokes to their hair, and just comb through your hair, going back and forward, being sure that that conditioning spray gets through all the hair, and you set your hair up for the ability to wake up tomorrow morning and look as good as you went to bed. Believe it or not, the satin pillowcase is one of the way that stars and TV personalities that wake up real early in the morning that need to do a shoot are able to wake up literally with the hairstyle that they went to bed with. Yeah, test that. Behind every strand of hair is a story of resilience. Meet Sheila, Danielle, and Kelly, 3 women who have opened up about their experience and the paths they took to find answers to their hair thinning and loss. I'm going to introduce you to 3 women that are beautiful ladies, but you're going to find out about their story with hair thinning and hair loss. You might have that same story, or you might be one out of the 4 women that are experiencing hair loss and hair thinning, or you might have a friend or a loved one. This is going to give you information of what's behind the scenes. First of all, I have our wonderful Sheila. Sheila, tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what you've experienced over the last number of years.
Thank you, Jeffrey. I'm Sheila. I have been experiencing hair loss for about the last 12 years, and it started with a thyroid situation, hypothyroidism. That in itself exacerbated the hair loss. The medication for the hypothyroidism did not help at all, and in fact, sped up the hair loss, as I've been told.
Obviously, Kelly, you've had some experience. Tell the audience who you are and what you've experienced in regards to hair thinning and hair loss.
Thanks, Jeffrey. My name is Kelly, and about 2 years ago, I noticed a change in my hair. Not only a receding hairline all the way around, but just damaged hair, but really for no good reason. So I stopped blow drying, curling, any hairspray, anything, and it's just getting crazier.
Danielle, this is my adopted daughter. We loved it for a long time. Why don't you tell who you are?
So my name is Danielle, and I never had any hair loss issues until about 2 years ago. I had an ombre done, so I had my hair dyed, and it turned to be a disaster. So I had this terrible hair experience, and they must have dyed my hair probably 5 times. And all of my hair, like half my hair fell out.
Well, you know, the interesting statistic that we want to talk about is you are 1 out of 4 women. Now, that's 30 million women in the United States. And 1 out of 4 women have and will experience hair thinning and hair loss, whether it's triggered by a thyroid problem, an iron problem, or just a genetic predisposition, or whether the stress or the aging process triggers the relationship. And as you all learned in the consultation of Jeffrey Paul's, there's a lot of different reasons that trigger it, but that doesn't fix it, but at least lets you know with some knowledge what's there. Let's talk about the solutions you all tried, because there's a couple chuckles in that, there's a couple tears in that, and a lot of money spent, right?
How much time do we have? Well, probably every shampoo that was ever invented or made, every conditioner, every hair treatment, Rogaine, you name it, I've tried it. vinegar rinses, massaging, transplant. I mean, everything to try to stave this off.
I've never asked this question of any of you at this point. You'd never really had a hair coach to help manage your hair loss and hair restoration at that point. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. And, I just want to beat myself up sometimes because I've known you for a long time and you could have been my hair coach all along. So.
Well, I think that's really what's important. You can't tell if your hair is having success in growing unless you have the instruments, unless you have all the elements you've seen in trichology that we work with in regards to, at Jeffrey Paul's, the ability to examine but also measure, to calibrate the hair to see if the nutritional patch that we're using with the transdermal vitamins that are entered into your body bloodstream, is it working? And it takes at least a month, but in a month we can calibrate that now. But without a coach, it's like weight loss. If you don't see all that workout producing, and it won't for 90 days, what happens? You stop. You just get discouraged. And then you try something else, and then you get discouraged, and it becomes depressive. Would I hit that on top of it?
Yes, very depressing.
And that's not a fun place to be. You're all career women. Besides being moms, besides being family members and relationships, but you're in a pretty big career. What did it do to your character and feeling and you? What happened to you in the case of hair loss?
I just internalize a lot of things. I wouldn't say outwardly people would notice a difference. I will say that because as I told you before, I forge ahead. Like, it's not all about our looks. It is that inner self, and this is not what I'm made of. It is. You can say it's just hair, but it is. We had the conversation, Sheila and I did. You can say it's just hair, but it does affect you. So I'm not minimizing that at all because it definitely affects you. And it makes you do crazy stuff.
What do you think it did to your career level and relational level?
Well, I was focusing more on what the other person was thinking. And that's very difficult because in my profession, I'm trying to get my expertise across, as we all are in our professions. And when you're not focused on that, or when it's just terrible. It's just, all I could say is it's a horrible feeling. I know that I'm much more than that. I know that I've always been very confident and bold and, forged ahead through everything. But I find that holds me back some. And I'm a little bit insecure, figuring that people are focusing on my scalp instead of my words, and I don't like that feeling. It's not fun. It's not fun.
You felt the same type of feeling, didn't you?
A little bit different. So because I had always had so much hair, when I lost it all, it was almost for me, it was so depressing. I felt ugly. I would look in the mirror and be like, gosh, my hair just does not look right. It just doesn't look good. I don't look good. I had the husband that was like, you look beautiful. And I'm like, no, I don't. And it just, you didn't feel right. And then, with 2 kids, I'm like going to every sporting event and kids parties, and, you still want to look pretty. You don't want to. And that was a big part of me. I did a lot in fashion and photography and graphic design, and a lot of my world revolved around fashion and beauty for a really long time. So for me, it was devastating. It was really devastating to notice it. But then I felt guilty because, obviously what you're saying is very visibly noticeable, where mine, someone may not notice it. They would think, oh, you have great hair. And then I feel like, oh, thank you. I feel guilty, but they had no idea that I lost so much hair and that it was starting to become a problem. And honestly, I'm sure a lot of women out there that are watching this know, you think, I'll buy the $10 treatment over the counter. I'll buy the $20 treatment. It's not going to cost me a lot. I could fix my hair. When you do that, it adds up to hundreds of dollars that you could have gone to the salon and done the correct way and saved money, actually.
Thousands.
Right. Yeah.
Thousands.
Yeah, because you're just buying it and, I'll try this, I'll try that. I'll do the natural remedy. And when it doesn't work, you realize there was a better solution,
Well, trichology has become a bigger thing all over the world. Trichology is the ability now to study with the instruments that have been produced by laboratories in Bologna, Italy, and universities over there, to test with multiple levels, and all of you have gone through some of that experience, And we then can baseline, where's your scalp, where's your condition, what is the diffusion level. A woman's hair loss begins right behind the hairline. So a lot of you might be saying, my hair leaves me more flat in this area. The hairdresser is not looking for that. So he's saying, or she's saying, your hair's okay, let's just color it or let's do something, because they haven't been trained in trichology or even how to listen professionally in a manner that'll give them the ability to educate you. But then it's like a pebble in the brook. It can continue through the whole head. And how many of us have not seen, we talked about that a little bit ago, I'm looking for this solution to this, but you're at the store, you're in line, and you see the woman that you can see right through to her scalp. Breaks my heart every time. I don't, have not found a way to gently and professionally, but also sensitively and passionately say there is a solution. There's not one solution, but by examining, evaluating, and assessing the process, we can help you find a solution like these women are going through with this process. So the diffusion is where the hair begins to become thinner. So it grows, falls out like the 80 to 100 hairs a day, as you all had heard in the consultation, but the new one that comes back lives less time and becomes thinner. So women's hair thinning and hair loss and miniaturization takes a long time to really be discovered or to begin to really see the scalp. Then you've got the breakage that will typically happen, which then gives you a kind of a catch-22. Now you got thinning in the scalp, but you've also, like you talked about, Kelly, breakage, that you have less hair in the overall expansion of the length of your hair. And you probably cut your hair shorter because you said you had worn it longer, right, for a while? But then you can start see-through in this area as well. So trichology is important because no matter whether you go through the treatment series and the management and the therapeutic treatments that we go through, both at home and in the salon, the other part of it is, even if you're going to get hair replacement, like integrations and other type of things that we do for thin hair, just to give back the amount of hair that you've lost, because if you got hair, we don't want to cover it, we don't want to shave it, we want to do all the strange and crazy things that the industry out there is doing wrong, because they shouldn't do that to a woman. If a woman has one hair in our practice at Jeffrey Paul's, we really want them to keep it as a part of the solution. Make it as healthy as possible, but also incorporate what they've lost. And that's where we've developed integration systems and et cetera. But in turn now, the solutions are important to change your life, to bring your life back to a good, healthy head of hair. And that's really where we want to talk to the audience about. So again, it's very important that people out there understand there are solutions, but they have to get a good examination. They got to go through the trichology information. They not to know where they're at this point. Number two, is there solutions like trichology treatments, light therapy that you're going to be going under as well, which are laser light therapy, but not every laser works. There's the over-the-counter laser and there's a pharmaceutical prescription laser. So there's a lot that's out there. One of the things that I believe is we have to do at Jeffrey Paul's and teach the professionals, which we do in our academy, is to teach them that you don't treat the woman's hair. One of the chapters in my book says that the hair is not attached only to the follicle. It's attached to the inner beauty. You guys have done a beautiful job of just letting the audience understand it's not just about this. It's really about this inside. When this is feeling good, we could even have a bad hair day and we could get through it, right?
Right.
But you guys have a bad hair day every day and it affects your emotion. If you had a message to conclude with listening to the audience about what you've experienced.
I think and I'm at the beginning stages, I haven't been tested yet, but I already have that hope and less stress just thinking about going through treatment. I think that really is half the battle, is just do it. Like start it, make an appointment.
That's cool.
And find out. I'm looking forward to finding out what the problem is.
Yeah. How about you, Sheila?
I'd say pick up that phone immediately. I wish that I had done it a lot sooner. There is a solution, and I, would just encourage anyone because it doesn't get better. You only feel worse as the days go by. So do something now. We're very, very fortunate, very blessed to have that solution on our doorstep in Cleveland, Ohio. So thank you for being here and not moving to Palm Springs or something. Yeah, that's pretty Cleveland better than that.
Any hair loss isn't too little. So, like for me, I never imagined calling you, just because when you think of hair loss, a lot of times you think of men or extreme hair loss. But it could be as easy or as little as pregnancy hair loss. Because a lot of my friends were going through that. Having a baby, you lose a lot of hair. I had an additional horrible experience, but nothing is too little because it could turn into something bigger later. Oh, yeah.
It's time to do something. Now, you've seen 3 women that have poured their heart down. And I want to thank you. This is the best I've ever done. This is the best I've ever had. 3 people at the same time with the same hearts, different stories, different age brackets, but really you shared with the audience out there what I've wanted always to share, what I write about, which is not just about the hair. It's about everything I am as a woman, and that's so important to me.
Hair Loss Solutions TV with Jeffrey Paul thanks our sponsor, Jeffrey Paul Hair Scalp Specialists, leaders in advanced care for hair thinning and scalp health, helping clients look and feel their best.
Now, let's hear from Carlos Piña as he explains how low-level light therapy works, who it's for, and why it became popular as an option for men and women looking to combat hair loss safely and effectively. We're going to address the issues of, did the lasers that are out in the marketplace work? And if so, how do they work? And I have an incredible guest, one of the leaders in the laser industry and hair growth and hair management, Carlos Piña in Miami Beach, Florida, United States of America. Welcome, Carlos.
Thank you, Jeffrey. It's a pleasure being with you here this morning and also with your viewers. And I look forward to this interview.
We've been gaining so much momentum. We're so excited about you being with us because our population of our TV program has just exploded because of the interest out of basically 1 out of 4 people in the world want some sort of hair management to help them grow their hair or stop losing their hair. You have a background that's quite intense and in depth. Give us a quick snapshot of your bio. Why are you sitting there and why are you here in regards to the laser industry?
I've been involved in a large part of my life in the medical field. I've been working with different disciplines in scientists, doctors, and one specific, Dr. Bernard Nussbaum, he's a hair transplant physician here out of South Florida in Miami. He became a client of mine, and then we became good friends. And he actually did hair transplants on me. I suffer from hair loss. So I had 3 hair transplants that Dr. Nussbaum did. And I got to the point that we could just not do any more transplant because there's so much donor area that you have to do these things. So he introduced me to laser therapy. And that's how I became involved and interested in low-level light therapy.
Tell us about laser, Carlos. How does it work? Are they all the same? I mean, there's so many things that the audience have been hearing about on internet, publications, and, it goes from one small little laser comb all the way up to domes that are, large. What are the differences and how do they work?
Well, there's a lot of difference, not only in the actual design of the devices, but also in what type of materials go into those devices. When you mention lasers, they could go from a range from here to here. I mean, you can find, in our case, a laser that we're using this type of devices, 650 nanometer light with 5 milliwatts that could cost 30 cents. And you could have another one here that could cost $6, $7, $8. And that has to do with the way they're being manufactured, the quality control that goes into it. So it's very important that you're using the best materials that money can buy, especially for a medical device. The way that the laser devices are designed per se. You have to make them in a way that they're easy to comply with. Because if you have compliance, you're going to have efficacy. And in ours, it's in the shape of a baseball cap. We created a new cap with a completely flexible material. It's made out of silicone inside, so it fits like a glove, which is very important. Lasers are not like LEDs that they disperse the light. They're very directional. So you want to make sure that you have the lasers very close to each other. You don't want to have spaces in between those lasers because that's how you get maximum coverage.
The salon is normally where men and women first recognize or are identified by their stylist some hair thinning or hair loss. And that confirmation, they go then to the next step of a dermatologist or whatever, but you're giving the ability for that consumer as well as the stylist to be able to help immediately and not lose any possible time, because time is really important in the issue of hair loss. Would you agree?
I completely agree. In my case in specific, I met Dr. Newsman through my stylist. The guy that had cut my hair for 30 years, he said, "Hey, Carlos, I think it's time for you to see someone because I'm seeing a lot of your scalp here." And he's the one that actually recommended me to go see the doctor, in this case, Dr. Newsman, to treat my hair loss. So yes, I don't know of anybody out there that has had a hair transplant that has not been told this by the guy or the lady that cuts their hair.
How does a laser, and I like what you said about the directness, and anybody that's ever used the laser pen knows how direct it is. It's not like a flashlight, it's direct. But what's happening below the surface? Tell us what you've learned in your research.
The mitochondria, which is, I guess in simple terms, we can say it's the battery of the cell. So what the low-level light therapy induces the production of that energy to that power cell. And that increases the production of the growth factor, increases the production of the inflammatory mediators, and also increases the tissue oxygen. In essence, you're basically feeding that follicle new life into it. Besides, also it increases the blood flow to that follicle as well. Every follicle in our head actually has a very small artery connected to it. So all these things, that's what the laser does to help stop the hair loss. I mean, you take a very thin hair that is in the way to dying. Once it dies, there's no way you can get it back with as of now with like a low-level light therapy. But if we can stop the hair loss and increase that density, we have done our job with the with a cap.
Hair loss may be a shared experience, but the solution can be deeply personal. We hope today's episode reminds you that you are not alone and that there are real solutions backed by both science and support. A heartfelt thanks to Sheila, Danielle, and Kelly for sharing their stories, and Carlos Piña for shedding light on the power of laser therapy in the fight against hair loss. If this episode resonates with you or someone you care about, share it. Let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, I'm Jeffrey Paul, and this is Hair Loss Solutions TV, reminding you that beauty and change begins within. Hair Loss Solutions with Jeffrey Paul is back with even more expert insights, real success stories, and the latest breakthroughs in hair thinning and loss technology. If you're ready to take the next step in understanding and solving your hair and scalp concerns, make sure to hit the subscribe button, tap on the notification bell, and follow us on social media.